Yes, this is Let's Talk. Call-in radio, getting to the root causes of the important issues of the day. This on-the-air community forum believes your voice matters and welcomes all thoughts and views without judgment. Please join today's conversation by calling 415-663-8492. Technical adjustments being made in the studio. Today, your hosts are Shelley Rugg at the control board.
Oh, thank you, Paul. And you're Paul Raffel.
And I'm Paul Raffel. And
Stephen Hurwitz.
Stephen Hurwitz. Over there.
I'm here.
Over there at the microphone, at the green microphone. And today's subject, just so you all know, right before you call in, I know you were just going to call in and just talk randomly, but no, there's a topic today is bigotry.
Oh.
What is it? Where is it? How can we recognize it? And where can we get more?
No, I get a feeling in my gut that less is more
Less
in this
is
case.
better?
Yeah.
So let's just start, as I did in the blurb that I sent out this week, the Merriam-Webster definition of a bigot.
What a terrible place to start with definitions.
Well, I think we need to know what we're talking about.
I mean, that's like 8th grade theme.
Well,
hey, Paul, go for it. I want to know.
Oops.
Kind of bigoted over there. A bigot is a person who is obstinately or intolerantly devoted to his or her own opinions and prejudices.
Mm-hmm.
Did I just do that?
You're on the verge. But if that is the definition, the acceptable English definition of the word bigot, then I think, don't we all have a trace of bigotry in our veins, in our minds, in our bodies?
Let's
I think
examine
more than
that.
a trace, actually.
Yeah?
I think racism, I think we get it in this country in our mother's milk. It's just, I mean, it's...
Speak for yourself, sir.
Well, when I look at myself and I look at the, my own racism, et cetera, it's a revelation that it's in there and how much of it and where it comes from.
Yeah.
Can you give an example?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you very much.
Dig yourself a deeper hole.
I'm still discovering it. I'm not ready.
Well,
but you're recognizing it that you do have a certain amount of intolerance towards people who are not like you. How's that?
That's right.
Well, I think we can all look at today's political climate and theater and say that are we all not a little bit guilty of being bigots? In that case, not racism as such. Doesn't have to be racist. That's how it's kind of been taken for a long time. Of course, that's one of the main thrusts of bigotry.
It's a completely closed mind. Right. So you've just decided this is how it is. There's no other way to see it. So you have a completely closed mind. I think that you might have fear about the unknown. That's normal. Mm-hmm. But it's whether you are able to keep an open enough mind to learn and grow and understand
to
things.
Be able to talk to other people who have different views.
Right.
And maybe try to see a glimmer of fact in what they're saying.
So I guess from the definition, the bigoted person can't do that.
Right.
They're intolerant.
They are terribly intolerant and will not, and are, not violently in the physical way, but violently opposed to other views.
Right. Which
regardless of what those other views are, I mean, is this a general thing?
Just the definition of it.
Could you read Merriam-Webster
again? A person who is obstinately or intolerantly devoted to his or her own opinions and prejudices.
Right.
So I would say
that happens in religion too, right?
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we love religion for that. It tells us who's right, who's good, and why we can believe anything we want to believe because someone else is doing it all for us.
Hey, do you all know the call-in number? I know you guys want to talk about bigotry with us. Please call 415-663-8492.
Yeah, it's a fitting subject for the holiday season, I thought.
Why? Tell me more.
Yes,
I don't
why?
know. Although in this country, the holiday season encompasses so many differing beliefs. So maybe it's a good sign that it's not just Christmas. There's a war on Christmas, you know.
It is interesting.
Because we say holidays instead of Merry Christmas now, and there's a war on Christmas.
Oh, dear.
But no, but it's, we just did Hanukkah. We're going to do Kwanzaa, and we're going to do Christmas.
What about Festivus for the rest of us?
Winter holidays.
Festivus for the rest of us.
Don't you have some? Don't you think we should have some form of seasonal change, recognition, celebration of the night? Light. They all seem to be festivals of light in the darkness. You know.
Yeah. No, it's fine. It's you have to tie it to something other than nature. Fine, good. It's all good. See,
yeah.
I'm not intolerant.
Well, it's interesting, how...
I may be an atheist, but I'm not intolerant. Scratch the surface a little bit.
Our human nature, because of our fear or what we were taught by our family who had that fear, that even though we don't actually have any real information about something, we can still be intolerably afraid of it.
Yes.
Well, am I a bigot if I just refuse to eat Brussels sprouts? I mean, it seems like this definition is way too wide.
My grandmother would never invite you over, I'll tell you that.
I like Brussels sprouts. It's just an example.
Oh, I actually am bigoted against chocolate cheese. It just doesn't sound...
I don't even know what that is.
I know. Well,
chocolate cheese.
My mom bought some once because it sounded interesting, and she and my brothers ate it and thought it was great, and I couldn't go there. So I was bigoted.
Blue cheese or something?
It's chocolate flavored cheese.
Oh dear.
Anyway.
It just seems to me that bigoted...
I am intolerably opposed to that.
Yeah, but it's commonly used to, it's on the negative. When we say someone's bigoted, we really mean socially bigoted.
Right.
Yeah, we're not talking about
okay.
Brussels sprouts.
Steer it back to the serious.
Not till the Brussels sprouts fight back. Until there's a complaint.
Well,
I did all my online.
Yeah.
What did your research come up with?
Oh well, mine is like there's a couple of interesting that came out, and this thing called soft. Where am I? Soft bigotry. Yeah.
Oh.
Did you get into that?
No. Tell us more.
Well, it's something that actually I'm going to quote something, and you might tell me who it was that said this. Now, some say it is unfair to hold disadvantaged children to rigorous standards. I say it is discrimination to require anything less, the soft bigotry of low expectations. Now, the person that said this is recently deceased.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
George G.W. Bush. Yeah.
Oh.
And the study showed that those lower expectations impact achievement. Having teachers who were confident that their students would complete college made a real difference in their college attainment. Some setting high expectations for students cannot solely be done through legislative action, but no child left behind certainly had that aspiration, whether people liked it or not.
Well,
so when you think that, these kids are disadvantaged, so I don't have to expect as much from them, it's a form of soft bigotry.
Absolutely. In fact, that was one of the topics I was thinking about doing this week, was how the tests are skewed culturally and socially against poor people of color. And have been ever since IQ tests, for example, were invented. The Stanford Binet test, which is still a form of which is still being used to track children into the next layer of education, And SATs are based on IQ tests that, from long ago, testing children in the white culture. And
are you saying that
who's going to get chosen to go on the university track and who isn't? And
the questions in those tests are obviously geared towards a certain set of experiences. That,
of course, yeah. In fact, the classic, when Donna and I were doing when we were doing brain lines, doing research for telling personality from the frown lines between your eyebrows.
Oh, no.
We dug into the IQ tests and into the famous personality test. Anyway, into personality testing. There was a great question in the original Stanford Binet, which is, table is to floor as cup is to... And, of course, people who have never had a cup and saucer in their lives, children who've never seen a saucer, they've always drunk out of mugs or glasses. What were they going to say?
Yeah.
Right? Is it just it was just a thing that this white guy came up with.
I would have blown that
who was sipping from his teacup.
Right.
I might have missed that.
To him,
China.
it was completely obvious.
To him, it's obvious.
Simple.
Yeah. And that's just a silly example, but that whole thing runs throughout those IQ tests.
Right.
It's all, and they're still using them.
Was this a multiple choice?
Must have been. No, I don't think so. No. Not in the original.
I think I blew that one.
But it's I was shocked to hear that they're still basically using the same sort of things, and now they're actually talking about more conscious testing or different ways of testing if you still have to test to see who's actually going, because they're not testing. They're testing. Maybe this is what's part of the problem with our society today, as we see it now, is that the ones who were directed onto universities were the ones who could complete those tests and were set in those ways. They're set in those parameters, and then they are rewarded by staying within those lines, right? So they're not testing for mental agility. They're not testing for creativity. They're not testing for talent in other. What they're doing is filling universities with drones, right?
Well, maybe it's another subject, the educational system. That's a biggie. Anyway.
Oh, yeah.
Let me get back to bigotry. Bigotry tries to keep truth safe in its hand with a grip that kills it. Rabindranath Tagore said that.
Wow, it's an interesting...
That's
a nice one, isn't it? So bigots believe that they know the truth and others are trying to... are just lying and trying to beat them down. I mean, it's this same fear thing is basically bigotry.
They don't want to be made to do something they don't want to do. So let's think of something that we're deeply afraid of.
This whole thing, though, it sounds like it's relative, this business of truth. I know the truth and I'm hanging on to the truth. I mean, take global warming, for crying out loud. I mean, if I insist that I know the truth regarding global warming, am I a bigot regarding that in the face of people who tell me something different?
Yeah, I mean, in the dictionary definition, if you will not listen to people who have doubts that climate change is caused by humans, then if you will not listen to them and will oppose them every time they speak, then I guess... Yeah, that's a little bigotry. A form of bigotry.
Right.
Give us a call, 124-156-663-8492. Tell us how you're bigoted, by not calling in.
I did a little
I never call
here.
in. That's how that is.
There was a study that found a correlation between white American intolerance and support of authoritarian rule. Based on surveys from the United States, the authors found that white people who did not want to have immigrants or people of different races living next door to them were more likely to be supportive of authoritarianism.
There you go. It's a scary thing. It's as you said, closed-mindedness and fear of the unknown, xenophobia.
Right. We have a caller. Caller, turn down your radio. Tell us your name.
This is Sally.
Hi, Sally.
Oh.
And you know about, watch your language.
I don't swear.
Okay, good.
Well, I actually do swear a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But never have I.
Never on the radio.
Not once in all my years on the air, and I marvel at my self-control.
You're so strong.
Wow.
I'm so strong.
Not
What you
everyone in
got
this
for us
room.
on bigotry today?
Well, I was thinking about how bigotry is a part and parcel of sort of growing up in a closed kind of environment. So if you're going to be open to change and to perhaps limiting your bigotry, or I guess eliminating it, chipping away at it, you have to maybe see the world a little bit, or somehow get out of what might be the bubble, all our respective bubbles.
Right.
And also, I was thinking that bigotry is very convenient and self-serving until it isn't, I guess.
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, I think it's a way of, if you're in a society or in a community, that's the word, that is engendering a certain mindset, or you want acceptance within a community, and that community has certain beliefs, then it's convenient and it's important to sort of follow those beliefs. If you're afraid, you risk being ejected from that community.
Yeah.
So that it's not only convenient, it's kind of like a survival tactic.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
And I...
Makes sense.
Yeah, right. I mean, I'm just sort of thinking as I go, but what kind of spurred me to think about this was some people who've grown up as white supremacist people in a certain community, and they have then grown up and made a big shift and disavowed that and changed their perspective.
Right.
And then there's this article that I just read that really inflamed me. Orrin Hatch says...
Love that, man.
He doesn't... I mean, I'm just basically... I'm not quoting him directly. I'm paraphrasing that he just sort of dismisses the problems with Trump, the potential crimes under which he's being... investigated, because he's doing a great job as president. So to me, that says it's awfully convenient to cloak yourself in your, elder statesman political party situation, your position of power within a very powerful party. And then you can just sort of say that, and then you're abandoning your value. I mean, that is really shutting yourself off willfully to a whole set of values.
And part of the problem with the system we have, and this is why I'm kind of in favor of term limits, although, if you have a good politician, don't let him go. But how long has Orrin Hatch been in the Senate?
Just 180 years.
I mean, talk about being in a community that gives itself a closed feedback loop. I mean, he has no idea what the real world is like. None of those old guys who've been there for 50 years have any idea. They go from place to place.
They have their own kind of bubble.
They take their bubbles with them. They rarely meet with their constituents, only when it's a campaign time.
Hey, Sally, do you think that could you focus this on, say, the West Marin community, where we have a decided bias, and maybe some people are very reluctant to speak out in any way that is, questions that bias?
Well, I think that's a universal issue, the thing of people being in a community, a small community or a greater-sized community, whether it be West Marin or not, and being afraid to speak out. I think that's a universal issue, and that's what I was saying, is that then you risk being ostracized or rejected by the community. So there's attachment, and it really comes down to the most basic form of survival, which is acceptance by the clan, not the Ku Klux Klan, but that's probably one community.
Part of it.
But what I'm saying is the Klan, in the sense of it's almost like a prehistoric thing.
Sure. Well, we all want to fit in.
I don't know about West Marin. West Marin has different people. We have people who are like to hunt and are pro-hunting. We have people who are...
and then again, when they do, they get questioned, judged negatively.
Well, some people judge those, and most people judge those who don't share their values or their practices to some extent.
Right.
To varying degrees. It's inevitable.
But yeah, there's a difference between judging and actually being completely intolerant and completely closed.
Absolutely.
Because we need to judge in order to know who we want to hang out with or how to be safe.
Judgment and discernment, there's also little differences there as well. So you could judge someone mildly or harshly or anywhere in between. I think for example, this is so silly. I had a boyfriend in college who thought that Andy Warhol was the greatest visionary artist of all. And I secretly judged him as simply not knowing enough about art and art history.
Right.
And then when we broke up, when he ended up sort of breaking my heart for 10 minutes, I really was like, you see that?
Yeah, I knew it all along.
Be with someone who really thinks that, like, the be-all, end-all is, while a great, a really interesting artist and has that great longevity and effect on the world, the modern world, it is, if he's going to really say it's Andy Warhol. But
you were not intolerant to him. You were judging, but you weren't intolerant.
I was judging him mildly.
Until he broke your heart, of course. But then how about someone...
all hell broke loose. Yeah.
I've actually seen you talking to people who think the Eagles are a good band.
I was trying not to bring that up.
You don't like the Eagles?
Oh, cool.
No, just give me the cramps anytime. No Eagles. Well, what's your point?
Okay.
Have I been intolerant towards those people who like...
No, you haven't. That's what I'm saying.
But wait a second.
Yes.
Are you a bigot then in relationship to Andy Warhol? You're not open to new thoughts about...
Not at all. No, in fact, I was just reading a recent article about Andy Warhol.
They're doing a big retrospective. It's coming to this the Bay Area very shortly.
I know. I was just reading that article, and I
bad hair, I will admit. Actually, it's a wig. Somehow he lost his hair. I can't remember how.
Alopecia, wasn't it?
He was an interesting, very interesting person, very unusual, eccentric, highly eccentric person.
Certainly a powerhouse in the arts.
And
for whatever reason.
That was just a sort of silly example as being at that time in college and feeling that I knew more about art and that therefore I was a more sophisticated person than this very pretty young man who I secretly thought was somewhat shallow. And so
a shallow band. Oh my gosh!
It's a mundane thing that happens in life, mundane stuff. Then it gets bigger, and the cost is very high. Like the man who ran over that, the white supremacist, terrible person, ran over, plowed into the crowd and murdered that woman. And let's not forget that he injured several other people. And that is the extreme of where it goes. And it must be, obviously, we have to have self-awareness.
Yeah. Well, the bigotry is becoming more... It's surfacing more, let's say, the open bigotry mostly towards people of other races than whites.
Hey, we have another caller.
Oh, I'll let you go. I just want to say quickly, it comes back to survival and resources. All of this scapegoating and hatred towards the other is deep-seated in fear and fear.
Right.
Anyway, thank you so much. Great
Thank
show.
you,
Thanks
Sally.
for calling, Sally. And caller, you are on the air.
Hi, this is Robin.
Hi,
Hey,
Robin.
Robin who?
How are you guys doing?
In the heart of Alabama?
No, she's back.
Oh, back.
I'm reaffirming my Calabamian status. So I'm back in California. But
Excellent.
if I was gone too much longer, you guys were going to make me a non-Californian.
Yeah, exactly. You lose your status.
That's right. Well, yes, so it's interesting listening to Sally. And I did want to say that I think the Andy Warhol issue is that's a little bit more snobbery than bigotry. And I think snobbery is sort of like light dose of bigotry.
Bigotry light.
But for Sally's point, I think she got to the heart of it, which bigotry being, the complete unwillingness to hear other data that does not confirm your strong point of view,
Right.
is a very tribal, primal part of all of us. Mm-hmm. And I know just being back home, but I see it in West Marin as clearly as I see it in Mobile, Alabama. Mm-hmm. And but in West Marin, we're so, and I speak as a West Mariner, we're so self-righteous that we're so intellectually rigorous that there's no way that any of us are bigoted.
Mm-hmm.
We're just right.
But there are all kinds of places you don't want to say certain things or step on toes and ways.
That's right.
A lot of people I know in West Marin who tend to be more conservative, some of our ranchers and other community members, or more moderate, are very, I can't get them to even speak on my radio show, the Farm and Food Shed Report. So they feel very much repressed in being able to openly speak or even have a dialogue.
Right.
Which they will do with me because they figure since I'm from Alabama, I've had to hear much worse. So,
yeah.
But
Robin, as you know, we have to do a little break. So Shelley's going to do the underwriter. Hang on for a moment.
Yes, you are listening to KWMR in Point Reyes Station. And we are supported by Smiley's Schooner Saloon and Hotel in Bolinas, the oldest bar west of the Mississippi and a proud supporter of KWMR. Established in 1851, Smiley's offers newly refurbished accommodations, libations, music, and community entertainment. Event listings, events, tickets, and hotel booking information online at smileysaloon.com. That's SMILEYS saloon.com. Serving breakfast, lunch, and dinner in downtown Point Reyes Station since 1974, the Station House Cafe is a proud supporter of KWMR and all things local, offering live music, garden dining, cocktails, and more. Information and reservations available at 415-663-1515 or online at stationhousecafe.com. KWMR is supported by Willow Creek Wealth Management, serving the North Bay since 1984, offering independent, fee-only wealth consultation. Information available at willowcreekwealth.com. And you are joining us on Let's Talk Call-In Radio. We're talking about bigotry today, and the number to call is 415-663-8492. And Robin's on the line with us.
Hi, Robin.
Hi.
Hey.
One of the things that I think, Paul, you may have mentioned in your write-up about the show is bigotry learned? Is it NA? Where does it come from? And I might have shared this story before, but when I took my son when he was about 7 years old up to back home to a wedding, and we were staying in New Orleans with friends, and then I wanted to take him up to where my family's farm was in Mississippi, so we took these back roads along the Natchez Trace. And my son is half Latino, and which doesn't mean much of anything really in California. But he had heard about prejudice, and I talked a little bit about that, and that at his school as well, they had taught a lot about intolerance and prejudice, and they talked about the civil rights movement and things like that. So we go into a gas station, and Luis has to go to the restroom, And he comes out looking panicked. He says, Mom, you have to see what's in the bathroom. And I thought maybe he'd seen, like, a condom machine or something. I wasn't sure, but he looked scared. Mm-hmm. So I went in the bathroom, and there were racial epitaphs written all over the walls. And Louise was like, Mom, look at that. And I said, yes, honey, I talked to you about the fact that there's quite a bit of racism based around color of skin here, and that's what that is. He said, but Mom, you're not getting it. And I was like, what are you? They're all written above my head. And what was freaking him out was he thought, from the environment he had grown up in, going to a private school in San Francisco and being in a very liberal community, in Sausalito, and he was like, Mom, they're over my head. That means grown-ups wrote them. Mm-hmm. He was horrified because Luis had somehow come to understand in school that the reason they taught about that when you were like in kindergarten, first, second, third grade, they were taught about it because it was something you had to make sure that children might have, and you had to get it out. Like it was like something you cleansed children and humans off in their childhood years.
Anti-bullying kind of thing.
And that, of course, no sane adult could think things that stupid or dangerous. Right. And I remember, being proud of his school, but then on the other hand, the next year he was the school had gone kind of overboard. He did a book report, and it was a book about a little boy who'd gone to a summer camp, and the little boy was disabled, and the challenges of that, and learning to speak up, and et cetera. And so Luis started his book report, which is exactly what was on the inside fly of the book, was, a moving, touching summer story of a disabled boy who goes to camp. Well, when Luis gets up to his book report, the teacher stops him like in the third sentence and says, stop right there. She says, how dare you? I thought I taught you better to call someone disabled. And Luis looked horrified because that was what was the book description. and Luis said, what should I have said? She said, you must say differently abled.
Oh, boy.
So now there's an example of not bigotry, maybe not bigotry, but prejudice on the left. This whole thing of
the political correctness,
political correctness, and not allowing right wingers to talk at universities of all places, the places where minds are supposedly open and learning, and you're able to debate and all that. That's a kind of a left wing bigotry, isn't it?
Yeah, I see that quite a bit, being that I kind of traverse two worlds. And I see, when I had lunch when I got back with a friend of mine who tends to be, I would say, a conservative Democrat. And just that she said, I'm so glad you're back because I can talk to you about certain things that no one else will let me say, So there are things that I know that, if I wanted to go off on Bill Clinton, everybody would jump on my fanny that I know pretty much.
Really?
If I wanted to go off on, why people should have voted for Jill Stein, I would probably be shot. Not that I'm not saying I'm saying that. I'm just saying that I'm afraid to even say that. I'm just saying that if I wanted to talk even dissent within our own ranks of being progressive liberals, there's a real sort of staunch, like, don't you dare go there. You're the kind of person that gave us Donald Trump. And
then start talking about a third party, and oh, boy.
Oh, yeah, that. Oh, my gosh, I've been getting slammed for that for years. So, I think, and I also think it is our responsibility as the left wing, because one of the things that's the enemy of bigotry is believing in hard data. Yeah. Like, hard data blows it apart. So when I go back home, so I'll quit picking on us left Mariners, and I hear my father and other older people talk about the blacks. Well, the blacks have this problem of everybody being on welfare. The blacks have this problem of this, or, the blacks are so violent, or the blacks. And so that's like their new term. I don't know, maybe when I was growing up it was the darkies, but it sounds more polite, but it's still, and it's a lot of statistical things that they are saying. Most of the people on welfare are the blacks, and now the Latinos or the Hispanics. And so what I did do with my dad when I was home, which, and thank the goddess of politics, but my dad is a CNN watcher and not a Fox watcher, so I was so happy about that. So, I started to show statistics, and I had an article I'd done several years ago on statistics about how much money that undocumented workers contribute to our economy and to Social Security, billions and millions of dollars a year. He had no idea because he doesn't get that data or that news.
No, of course
right.
And so when I showed him, like, no, it's not the blacks, it's the poor whites and red states who are costing us so much money and Medicaid and welfare payments. And he was shocked. But my dad's very fact-oriented. When I showed him those facts, he was like, he was blown away.
Right.
Let me pull up more data. But he goes, why doesn't the news? Why don't people talk about this? I said, I have, no idea. Probably because people are interested and they're trying to feed them the news they think will get them ratings.
Right. There's an agenda.
They want ratings. They want people to be fearful of each other. And especially in poorer states, which are feeding off the teat of the federal government, I have to say. In poorer states, the poor whites want to feel that they're better than somebody. Who are they going to be better than?
The only thing they have to say they're better is skin color. That's
right.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm better.
Yeah.
So anyway, I think education and data, and America's been such an anti-intellectual culture from the get-go that, how do we? I mean, the way we resolve it is to have like the most stellar public school system with actual real data in it. Because because I wonder with my progressive friends back home in the South, we go, how did we end up so left wing? But all of us, the common bond we found was we're all voracious readers as children, and nobody was stopping us from reading whatever we wanted. And a lot of us read a lot of science fiction and a lot of fantasy. So one of our theories was no adults policing science fiction and fantasy, really. And most science fiction and fantasy are bringing up like interspecies marriage and all kinds of
social issues.
Talking about this business of sort of cleansing things and how we ended up reading one thing or another. I stumbled upon an article. When you're surfing the web, who knows where you end up. And it said something, should writers of long ago describing life in the past be held to 21st century political correctness? That question Carol Markowitz asked at Fox News after learning that Laura Ingalls Wilder's name had been stripped from the American Library Association Award for Children Literature because her work contains expressions of stereotypical attitudes toward Native Americans.
Which
Mark
is really unfortunate that could be a total learning moment. A conversation could be had around that, and instead they just want to remove it.
This man says if we continue to impose our modern-day sensibilities on historical figures, we will eventually fail to celebrate any of them. No one will be woke enough. Everyone will need to be erased.
How about Shakespeare? Oh, man. Political correctness. Gone mad. Nobody likes it except a few people. But talking about education, one of the main reasons I brought this topic up was that I read an article by a guy who's a psychiatrist, and he was talking about should we be treating bigotry as a disease or like a disease?
Oh, right.
Oh, no.
And he said 10 years ago he wrote in a psychiatric journal that there were more problems with creating a psychiatric diagnosis of bigotry, of blind hatred, even though it has ramifications that are just like a disease. It's contagious. It affects your health. There are statistics that show that not only are victims of bigotry affected by cardiovascular disease and stress and substance abuse and all that, it also happens to the bigots as well, because it's this constant thing they're under of being afraid and being under attack all the time, and hatred, builds up stress in your body. So they were talking about. At the time, he said, no, it shouldn't be a disease. But then he's looking at it now from a public health point of view, where the damage that bigotry does how would you go about treating it as a public health issue on the larger scale, on the population scale? And part of that is what you were talking about of education and teaching children how to recognize recognize facts and how to recognize prejudice.
Right. So how to have critical thinking skills.
Critical thinking.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah, that seems to be very
I
important.
don't think we have a disease. Critical thinking skills are something that we're severely lacking. I saw that in the Marine Literacy Program in the jail and at San Quentin, working with our clients there. Critical thinking skills were something that we taught within their lessons and was something they were, people in their 30s and 40s were having these aha moments about, actions, consequences. A leads to B leads to C. They had never been taught critical thinking skills.
Right, sure.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys for
thank you.
speak up, and thanks for the show.
Well, thank you, Robin,
for calling
and welcome home.
Happy holidays.
Oh, the same to you.
Why is it that you have to go to prison to get
Happy Hanukkah.
free health care,
Yeah.
college classes?
Bye, Robin.
Bye, Robin. Thanks. Why do you have to go to jail to get those? Yes. Well, that's as good a time as any. It is supposed to be about rehabilitation and re-entry into the.
Yeah,
I just want to mention something that this title, political correctness, was really an invention of the right.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
A lot of it is about civility. It's about, speaking to people in terms that they are comfortable with.
Right.
So that's really where it stems from.
Sure.
So
it's politeness, isn't it?
But
But then you take, of course, what humans do is take everything too far, and then you can't. Yeah. Anyway, that's another show.
Okay, I just want to posit one thing, and
What's that?
maybe just I could be right, I could be wrong, etc. But you might say that seeing the rest of the world, that the United States is perhaps less bigoted than so many other countries. Compare us to Pakistan. Compare us to across the 2/3 of the planet, we might find bigotry is just written right into their gene pool, and we're just not aware of it because
it's given free rein, let's say.
Plus, they have this homogeneous populations, and it really comes out.
Yeah, they have a lot of agreement.
And they have a lot of very stringent control mechanisms to keep contrary points of view locked in.
Sure. No, I mean, it's very human.
We might be good.
Human beings of all kinds. I think the part of the problem is that we think we're better than the rest of the world, and we may be a little less, in general, we may be less prejudiced, less bigoted than
Pakistan.
Well, Pakistan or Israel, yes, than other countries. But I'm not, I think that's what's shocking lefties anyway, is that there's this rise in visible bigotry, that there are these guys marching in their little clubs. They all feel included in their clubs and their little clans with a K and a small c. But it's just, as you were saying, it's human nature to be bigoted, and the trick is to be aware of it and to be able to maybe listen to other points of view, as we do on this show. 415, what a segue. 415-663-8492. No judgment here.
On KWMR, Ray Station.
We did get a pretty lengthy email from Charles Schultz,
Charles.
One of our co-hosts here in the past.
Your seat is empty.
There is a kind of magical belief that if people think right, they'll do right. For instance, there's a concern that people don't believe in anthropogenic climate change, but if they did, then something will happen. CEOs of major oil companies have known about climate change, the role of burning of their product in it for decades, but they didn't stop selling oil. Blah, blah, blah. Apple CEO Tim Cook has recently said it is a sin not to ban hate. setting aside the wild, old-timey religious tone of his rhetoric and his supposedly brave stand against the state of Indiana for passing or attempting to pass some anti-gay legislation, you can guess what he has to say about human rights in China, generally, and for his own wage slave army. That's right, precisely nothing. There was recently a big meeting at the Soups regarding ICE and the county sheriff. How dare he work with ICE? Everyone wants to know. Well, opposing deportation and supporting citizenship and then supporting unionization of West Marin farm workers, these are three very different things. Of course, every business in the county opposes deportation. How many support the latter two? It's hard to find real hardcore bigots in West Marin, although they are there, and we both know plenty of them. Most of us try to be enlightened when it comes to the surface to appearances, but get into economics and see how quickly that changes.
Hey, we've got a caller.
Thank you, Charles.
You are on the air. What's your name?
Kreta, and I know not to swear.
Good job.
So I want to take exception with something that Stephen said.
Goodness.
Good.
Call me a bigot if you will, but there you go. Stephen made the comment that the political correctness came from the right. Why does he think that, and what is he basing it on?
Well,
the term itself, you mean?
I read an article about it. But
you read an article, and you believe everything you read, right?
Oh.
Well,
critical thinking skills in action.
I was just going to elucidate.
Elucidate, I like that. Thank you.
The article, the writer of the article, talked about how the right wants to pigeonhole the left, so that essentially suggesting that we want to control the dialogue, and if it's we have these requirements that the public is supposed to adhere to, and it's supposed to be correct from our point of view, politically correct. So there is this intolerance for other points of view, a bigotry essentially, and they're accusing the if there's anything that the left says something that seems to be
Spit it out.
Yeah, listen. I love the attention. I'm just like, do you get what I'm saying? I mean, does that make any sense?
Well,
Maybe I haven't completed it.
I'm listening to you thinking it could be flipped.
It doesn't make sense at all, because the left does the same thing.
Exactly.
It's just that when the left does it, it's the right's fault, and when the right does it, it's the left's fault.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not. I'm just saying they invented it.
The term,
that it was they invented the term.
They invented the term,
yeah,
is what he said.
They want to pigeonhole people.
I don't know. I'll have to go with the research on that one, but I can't. I just think that this is part of our problem of not getting along, is we don't listen to the other person. Mm-hmm. We don't want to change our own opinion. We just want to see, our belief structure, and not open up to what else is going on out there.
Sure. Oh, I think bigotry is a very, well, of course, it's a human trait, because no other animals, I'm guessing,
don't have that
bigoted.
Problem.
But it's I think we all have it. We all have it within us.
I think animals can be bigoted too.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, stay away from that guy's house.
So, what about your bigotry? How do you? Where do you lie? What bed in bigotry are you?
In a lot of respects, but I'm certainly not going to name them on air.
Oh, yeah, they tried to pin me down too.
I don't want to be ostracized, from West Marin.
There you go. There you go.
Well, I would say we all have a trace, don't you think?
Yeah.
Some are more open than others.
Let's put it that way.
Yeah, well, preferences, yeah. But I think a lot of people I know, if confronted by facts that seem opposite to the ones they hold dear, will not listen to them.
And why is that, do you think?
Oh, I think because...
Fear?
Fear. You want to feel that what you think is the right thing, don't you? I mean, isn't that what everyone does? It's just a natural...
But what if you are right?
But maybe that whole ego trip needs to be really evaluated.
Oh, yeah, of course. No, we need to be aware of it when we're doing it. It's like everything else, conscious living.
There are all these articles about around Thanksgiving time of how to have Thanksgiving with your Uncle Joe or whatever it is.
Yeah, right.
There was the assumption that there's this person that you seriously disagree with and have to make it through the dinner.
It's all good skills to know.
Robin, who was just on, was telling me that she faced a lot of that when she was back in Alabama.
Oh, I bet.
Around the Thanksgiving table.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
You just have to, people have to agree to disagree, and every person's voice is valuable, no matter if you agree with it or not.
I agree with you about agree to disagree, but when someone's actions, we might disagree, but when they act in a way that that's dangerous or whatever, then that's a different story.
Right. Left. Yes.
Right. And I would say that we're all here, anyway, bigoted against Adolf Hitler, for example.
That's not bigotry.
Well, maybe some aren't.
Isn't that bigotry?
No, it isn't. No.
Really?
No.
Okay, how about the Californian, the thing I sent out with the blurb? The image was of a barber, a Californian barber, with a sign on his cash register. This is back in wartime, Second World War. We don't want the Japs back here. Never.
Yes.
Is that bigotry?
Yes.
But they were an enemy.
Yeah.
They're an enemy of the country. Same thing.
I guess what it is, Paul, is that bigotry is in the eye of the beholder, shall we say? And what one person might think is bigotry, maybe another doesn't.
Well, absolutely, of course. No, who would admit to it?
But it goes back to what you guys were saying about fact basis. It was very clear that Adolf Hitler was a heinous, evil person, whereas the barber who didn't want to cut hair of a Japanese, there really were there was nothing to back that up. Whereas Hitler, there's no problem backing up this. And it's not bigotry. You're just saying, that's all.
Japanese were doing horrible things too, by the way.
Yes, well, if he said Hirohito we're not going to cut his hair, then.
Well, the Arabs are doing horrible things too. I mean.
Yeah, so the Israelis.
There's a lot
it's all good.
Horrible things.
There isn't really
in the name of what religious.
Mostly religion.
Religion.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a wonderful thing, religion. Happy Christmas.
Well, it's a wonderful life. Huh?
See you there.
Coming up,
Yeah, this weekend.
It's a Wonderful Life. In fact, a live radio play by Joe Landry at Toby's Feed Barn, Saturday, December 15th. Doors open at 4:30. Show starts at 5 p.m. Tickets are $15 in advance at KWMR.org. $20 at the door. This show is sure to sell out, so please buy tickets on KWMR.org.
Well, and I love...
Thanks for your show, you guys. I appreciate it.
Oh,
thank you for calling.
Wonderful life stuff right now.
Yeah.
Thanks for calling in.
Thank you, Coretta.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Yeah, I mean, the radio play...
Benefit for KWMR?
I feel like it's really timely, a really timely piece.
It's a wonderful night.
Oh, yeah.
Every year. Thank you. Fabulous.
Is it that time?
I think it's that time, don't you? Enough of this bigotry. Let's think about more pleasant things for the next couple of weeks. I don't know what it'll be next week.
Plums and gumdrops and fairy kisses.
Thank you, Shelley.
Oh, thank you, Paul.
Expertly manipulated on the ball today.
I'm trying.
Thank you, Stephen.
I'm very happy to be here.
Good. I'm glad.
No,
we're happy to have you here.
Oh, okay.
It's a wonderful thing. It's a wonderful
Thank you, Stephen.
Thanks. We'll be back. Views expressed on Let's Talk are not opinions expressed on this program are not those of the hosts and callers, excuse me, and don't necessarily reflect the views of KWMR, its board of directors, underwriters, or members. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for calling. Thanks for listening. Till next week.